Welcome to the Catch Moby Strategic Sales Podcast, the best advice you're going to get on closing large strategic B2B customers. I'm your host, Christopher Windisch, a 30-year veteran of B2B sales and marketing, and I'm going to share my sales and marketing journey, and I'll interview other industry leaders to give you practical advice you can actually use to start closing bigger deals. Okay, we're back with the Catch Moby Strategic Sales Podcast, and we have got a jam-packed episode for you today. We're actually going to give you the best insight, if you can imagine, the best insight you can get into choosing the right strategic accounts for your territory or for your organization. So you're not wasting time with prospects that don't go anywhere, or even worse, landing those large accounts that you regret. So it sounds simple, but I guarantee you that most people are not choosing the right accounts. This is important for founders. It could be CEOs, CROs, sales managers, and even account reps. But you're going to get the best advice on not only why these strategic accounts are so important and why it hurts to choose the wrong ones, but also what exactly is a strategic account? How do we choose the right accounts? How do we put a process in place to ensure we keep hunting the right strategic accounts? And then if you stay to the end, we're actually going to go over how you can get started right now, picking the right strategic accounts and ensuring that you're selling the right customers. But I just want to take a second and say, please subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss an episode. And also head over to catchmoby.com where you can join our email list for exclusive insights into closing large deals you won't find anywhere else. Literally, these all come right from my brain, and they've been the cause of hundreds of millions of dollars in closed deals. So get on that email list and get our insights. Check it out. But let's start with a story. Why not? I remember being hired as a sales executive, and when I went in for my orientation, it was funny because each session, I kind of had a different executive pop in when we had breaks, and they'd come and ask me if I had built my territory of accounts, or they asked me what accounts I'd be going after. Now, they were all eager to see kind of where I would be hunting, where I would be selling, what accounts I would choose, and how much I would be closing. Now, I take a very methodical approach to building my territory plan. I think that's the plan that sets you up for success in your territory. So it takes a lot of due diligence. It takes a lot of thought, especially when you have a strategic account plan. It takes even more due diligence and thought. So I'm always very methodical about that. And I kind of told them my feedback was like, I didn't really know what I was selling. I don't know what the market fit is for your product. I haven't done any due diligence into your accounts. Where's your install base new accounts with verticals you play well in, where I could sell, where the message would resonate. I was just amazed that they thought I would come in with this list. And I think that's a story for a completely another day, is that people today think salespeople, when they hire a salesperson, that person comes in with like a complete blueprint of every account they're going to sell into, who they're going to contact, what message they have, why they should sell, how much they're going to close, when the deal's going to close. It's almost like, just upload your forecast to the CRM when you come in day one. They think all this stuff is pre-built, which is, it's funny today, but it's also kind of sad because it doesn't work that way. But, I think this points to the amazing fact that a lot of these companies don't understand the thinking and thought and planning that goes into building a strategic account. You think if they hired a product person, they would say, hey, what kind of product are you build? Did you come in with a prototype? Did you build it already and integrate it into our existing solution? No way. No way they would do that. But this is how companies out there really pick, their strategic accounts. They're asking these reps on day one, hey, where are you going to sell? Even at Oracle, when I was a rep at Oracle, I tell a story a lot. I'd go out for a steak with my manager at the steakhouse, and I would just have a printout of like all the accounts in my territory ranked by revenue. And we'd kind of go down one by one and we'd talk stories about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I think this would be a good fit. They make a lot of revenue. They're a big company. And I heard they were expanding somewhere. And, I think this is interesting. This might be a product fit. So it was really like a very casual territory put together and plan put together. And when you realize how much investment you put into these accounts, it's just amazing how little time people actually take to plan these territories. But this is how companies do it. And they are wasting tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in employee cost and millions in customer revenue and opportunity cost by doing it this way. So let's dive right into the meat. Number one, why are strategic accounts important? I mean, this may seem obvious. You may say, hey, they're strategic, they're big, there's lots of revenue coming at them, but I really want to distill down why these strategic accounts are so important to organizations. So what better way to do than start with the statistics? Let's look at McKinsey. McKinsey says successful B2B companies have 40 to 50% of their revenue coming from strategic accounts. That's a McKinsey guideline. They surveyed thousands of companies, and the most successful ones had this huge chunk, almost half of their revenue, coming directly from strategic accounts because they realize strategic accounts are the key to being successful. That's how you scale an organization. I mean, you can't keep chumming the waters and closing these small to mid-market accounts. You need these large accounts because not only is there a large revenue gain and predictable revenue, but they help your organization so much in so many other ways. Scale, whether it be the robustness of your product, your customer support, and marketing, et cetera. They're such a boon to your account. Now, these are not just big accounts, right? As we talked about in the story, they're not just high revenue accounts. Oh, the biggest deals happen to the biggest accounts. No, these are accounts that have to be strategic to your company. I mean, revenue is one of the indicators, but they have to be strategic to the success of your company. And with strategic accounts, you kind of get to turn the funnel upside down. So take everything you know about sales and marketing and invert it. You're no longer prospecting, right? And if you've ever seen the numbers on prospecting, they are dismal, which, I mean, it blows my mind. People still pay so much for these lead generation services and these prospecting services. And hey, I'll send you a spreadsheet with 1,000 names on it. The success rate is so dismal in these lead gen sheets. And when they're generated outside your company, it's like below 1% that they're going to turn into a deal. When you have them inside your company, you're building these prospecting lists, it's still in the single digits. So it's extremely dismal. But you kind of turn that model on its head because you are not prospecting. You're purposefully choosing these strategic accounts. So you actually get to go choose the best customer for your organization. So instead of saying, hey, we're going to run an email campaign and see out of 1,000 companies that kind of fit our criteria who raises their hand or interest, I'm telling you, go out there and find the best company you could ever think in your wildest imagination. If you close this company, oh my God, they'd be a great logo. People would love it. It would boost morale. There'd be great revenue. They're growing, like all of that. Think about what this best company would be. And that's what you get to do with strategic accounts. This means a huge ROI because you're choosing accounts you actually want to sell to and support and deliver and become a partner with for many years to come. And that has been shown to be the best ROI of any sales and marketing dollar you will spend. When you do things like account-based marketing, account-based sales, when you're marketing and selling to the strategic accounts, it's proven it's the best ROI of any sales or marketing dollar you will spend. I mean, that alone should make organizations jump up and start creating these strategic account programs because it is the best ROI. If you close them, it'll be great for your organization, right? There's so many benefits as we talked about. Because of this, everyone should be hunting strategic accounts. Your rep should always include what I call kind of 1 to 2 fantasy picks, right? This is when I used to build account territories. Even if they're not dedicated named accounts or strategic account reps, in their territory, they should have 1 to 2 fantasy picks. These are up among the largest in revenue of accounts. And what happens, you spend, 5 to 10% of your time during the week on these large accounts. And even if you don't close one of these accounts, several things happen. One of the most important things happen is it starts to broaden your mind. When you start thinking about partnering and selling to these large accounts, you come up with these creative solutions, these creative partnerships. That larger company has initiatives and different roles and different functions that your mid-market accounts don't have. And so you start to broaden your mind and broaden your horizon. And now you can bring a lot of those innovative ideas down to the mid-market. So hunting these larger accounts actually helps you sell better to small and mid-market accounts because you have a bigger tool belt. And you're going to be seen more as a thought leader and more as innovative. So regardless you're a named account rep or not, always pick large accounts, your fantasy accounts, a handful of them. And you never know. You could get an in. They could be in the buying cycle. They could be looking for a deal and you could close a deal. But just pitching to them and just working those accounts is going to help you sell to the rest of your list. So another reason why these strategic accounts, even if you don't focus on them, even having 1 or 2 in your territory are extremely important. Now, it does hurt to get this wrong, right? And that's the flip side of this, right? You want to look at the pain of getting this wrong. Some people will print out a spreadsheet, look for the highest revenue accounts. Go for it. You can do that, but it's going to hurt because you think of the investment. These are not kind of churn and burn type accounts. When you have these large strategic accounts, you can only handle a handful of them. And you put a lot of investment. If you're doing it right, you're putting investment in from several different departments. It's a cross-functional, cross-departmental effort to pursue these accounts. And believe me, when you get it wrong, there's going to be repercussions for you throughout the organization. So again, we talked about losing tens of hundreds of thousands in employee cost, having employees hunting the wrong accounts, and then opportunity cost and the millions of dollars you're losing from customers you should be focusing on, whether it be landing new customers or upselling customers. So it definitely hurts if you get this process wrong. And it's definitely a very strong point for doing your due diligence and getting these strategic accounts right. So now we talked about kind of why these strategic accounts are so important to your organization. Let's go into another simple topic. What is a strategic account? What is it? Right? And it sounds simple. Oh, it's an account that's strategic to my organization. But what does that mean? And this is where, again, mindset starts to change from just your small and mid-market accounts. A strategic account is literally an account where the relationship becomes critical to your firm's success and to your customer's business. So start to think about not that, hey, if we don't land this account, my company's going out of business, but what would closing this account mean to my organization, right? What would it mean to the brand? What would it mean to the organization? What would it mean to the people that work here? Think about all the strategic benefits closing one of these large accounts could have on your organization. And then you start to see, hey, if this is critical to our success, to our growth, to our many benefits that we laid out in our annual plan, that account is strategic. But conversely, you need to be beneficial to your customer's business. Is our solution really going to be mission critical? Is it really going to have a strong business impact? Is it really something they're going to hang their hat on and say, hey, we're one of their most trusted vendors or partners? Are we really that critical to their business? Because if you're not, then the investment's not going to be there, right? The revenue is not going to be there. The partnership, the engagement, all of these things are not going to be there if you're not critical to their business. So that is what a strategic account is, looking both ways at your organization, but also at your customer organization. Now, when we talk about successful for your organization, let's look at what that means, right? Revenue, it's not just revenue, but revenue is important, right? If you don't see a strong recurring revenue growth from this customer, I don't know how you can call it strategic. It could be a nice to have customer. It could be a customer that may help you go to conferences or, maybe produce a case study. But at the end of the day, these customers need to produce revenue. So revenue is critical. You have to see, even what I call the kind of revenue shape or the revenue curve. Is it just an initial deal and there's no recurring revenue after that? Is it flatline recurring revenue where there's no upsell, cross-sell, or increase? It has to have the right revenue curve to be a strategic account, which is normally, a good-sized initial deal, but then a consistent growth year after year. And growth in revenue and growth in profitability, right? That's from a revenue curve what makes it a successful strategic account. But also there's a lot of other questions to be answered, right? Will it be a great sponsor for the brand? If you have a customer that says, hey, I don't want to be a reference, don't ever mention me, no logo, no speaking, that's got to be kind of in the negative column, right? That's one point against them. Because one of the benefits of these strategic accounts is being a sponsor for your brand. Are they going to be a development partner, right? Is that something that's important to you and that you're looking for? If you're developing your product and say, hey, we want to develop our product for mainstream, right? We want to make sure that the features and functions we develop are really in demand in the market. What better way than get one of the largest companies in that market to tell you which direction you should be developing your product? But if they say, hey, we're not going to be involved, we have no time for that, we don't really want, the product to grow, we're fine with the functionality, again, that's another red flag. So many questions, and criteria that you can look at to see if they qualify for a strategic account. Are they seen favorably in the media? Is this somebody that you want to partner with? If they're cast in a negative light or something negative happened, right? Revenue went down or there was a scandal. I don't know if that's the best strategic account to really partner with. Also, does their culture fit, right? Are they a very extremely hierarchical, conservative culture, and it just doesn't match your startup culture, right? Which is every free, people wear multiple hats, you're very entrepreneurial, you're very cutting edge or bleeding edge technology versus being conservative. Does it fit their culture? Because that's going to make it tough to work with them in the future and not have a frictionless relationship, which is what you want, obviously, when you're selling to a customer. So as you can see, there's a lot of thought that goes into what is a strategic account and what does success look like. Now, you may not need a development partner. You say, hey, our product is mature. We've got enough feedback. We know we're hitting the market. That's not a criteria. But the customer case study and the reference and the appearances and the joint branding, that is important. So you need to define what is important based on the stage of your organization, maturity of your organization, what's important to you, and see if those criteria match to what a strategic account is. Now, I think it's no surprise, even from my stories above, that most of the time this is done in reverse, right? And what we call key accounts. Key accounts are kind of strategic accounts in reverse. So key accounts get chosen because usually a company, through some luck, has closed a handful of large accounts. And they say, you know what? We have a lot of revenue coming from these large accounts. We need to protect this revenue. So let's have a key account strategy to make sure that these customers are happy, we increase adoption, they keep being customers, they don't churn. And yes, let's put a growth strategy so we can get some more revenue. But this is kind of an after the fact. These weren't accounts that were chosen from the very beginning, that were kind of preordained as strategic accounts. These were just people waking up one day saying, hey, we have these large accounts, a lot of revenue comes from them. Let's put a strategy to make sure we maintain and keep them. That due diligence and that purposefulness should be done ahead of time when you're actually choosing the targets in the sales cycle to go after, right? So I think there's a lot of information about what is a strategic account. Again, define the criteria that's important to you, match them against the criteria. Now that we understand what a strategic account is, I guess the crux of the podcast, how do we choose the right accounts, right? And the first thing I'm going to say is that this needs to be a joint effort between all the groups or stakeholders that are relevant and that are important. So you could look at marketing, sales, support, and product. That's a good start, right? So that your ideal customer can be served and can benefit each of these groups, right? It's important to understand that the entire customer life cycle, buyer's journey, whatever you want to call it, from A to Z, right? You're constantly supporting and selling that customer. And every group or business unit or organization that touches that customer has to be on board and has to recognize it as strategic, and it has to understand that that's a win-win. So when you're starting to sell into an account, again, as a salesperson, it may be strategic to you. Hey, it's a big account, good revenue. But marketing may say, hey, it's no good for us to win and get use cases because they're not our vertical and they're not very open to doing joint marketing. So it's not really a win-win. We don't really care about the customer. Product may say, hey, this is a one-off. This is not a standard use case for the product. This is really a one-off. So it's not really going to be a good customer for us going forward to develop. So that customer has to be a strategic account across all of those departments in your organization. And what you do is you collectively develop this ideal customer profile, right? You kind of get in a room together and you collectively build this ICP, which identifies commonalities, right? How are we choosing these accounts? You could be looking at geography, could be industry, size, revenue, customer base, could be the product that they produce. It could be regulatory requirements, right? Demographics, technographics. All these different characteristics can be used to identify and nail exactly who your best target strategic account is. And everybody would have input into that, right? A customer base or the product that they produce or their technographics. If product says, hey, if they have these 3 systems installed or they use this kind of standard, that's incompatible with our product. That's not going to be a good fit, right? If marketing says, hey, they're in this industry, which is kind of a very regulated industry, which most of our current clients aren't, not a good case study. So that ICP is the culmination of what makes an ideal customer for each of those different business units in your organization. A lot of key questions for you, right? Is the market saturated with industry-specific competitors? I remember one time I was working with a company that kind of did project management software, and they were looking to get into high tech. And the first thing I said is, look, high tech has a lot of extremely industry-specific solutions. and you're non-industry, you're general, that's not a good market for us. I could tell you right away, regardless of anything, that's a disqualifier right there. The market is saturated with industry-specific competitors. And also, do I have credibility? We had no credibility in that vertical, which isn't necessarily a disqualifier, but there better be a lot of positive and benefits if you're going to go the uphill battle to build credibility in a vertical, right? If you have no customers there, no case studies, no subject matter experts in-house, no expertise, no credibility in that vertical, but you just have a burning desire to get into that vertical, you can build that expertise and credibility, but it's more of an uphill battle than an existing vertical you're already in, right? And do you have existing customers you can leverage, right? Are we a better fit for customers looking for bleeding edge or ones that are more kind of risk averse and conservative? Can we actually support the user population, right? They may be scattered in different locations. They may be multilingual, maybe international. And our support team says, hey, we don't have follow the sun support. We can't support this global organization. So again, there's a lot of criteria from all the different groups to make sure this is a strategic account. Because again, remember in sales, you're going to be closing this account and you're going to want to upsell and cross-sell and grow this relationship and really kind of groom this account to be one of your better customer references. If that account can't be supported, can't be a product partner, it can't grow with the other groups in your organization, you're never going to reach that. And it's going to be kind of a one and done sale and you're going to have to move on. So extremely important to make sure that that fits the criteria of each of these different departments. And remember, the goal is to build reputation, relationships, then revenue. It's kind of a tagline we have at Catch Moby: reputation, relationships, then revenue, right? If you can see a potential for this customer joining you on that customer journey, right, and moving forward with you, then they're a good target. Again, if they're the one and done, then you should just move on. So typically what I do, and again, this is going to vary by organization, but when I've had these departments that I've built, I would choose the 20 best accounts based on all of these criteria, and I would pick 5 to actively work. So you've got 5 at the top, right? These are the 5 best accounts. They may be the lowest hanging fruit. They may be the best for the more near-term opportunities, but you have 5 you're actively working. And then you've got the other 15 that are kind of you're keeping warm. You're reaching out to and engaging. And as a side note, this is very tough for a strategic account rep to kind of have this marketing brain that I should have a very specific and hyper-personalized messaging sequence for the top 5, but I should also be creating a recurring, drip campaign or messaging for the bottom 15 to raise awareness in those 15 and to get them warm and prime them for moving up to the top 5. I mean, this is really territory planning for a strategic account rep. And this is how you get successful. It's because you have those 15, and a lot of reps will pick their 5 and they'll focus on 5, and that's it. And when one of those 5 kind of fizzle out, they go and say, all right, who also fits the bill? Who else would I want to throw at the top? No, you should be grooming those 15 and you should have them ranked by priority. And you should already know, hey, if somebody pops out, I can't wait to move this account in because I've warmed them. There's been some engagement. There's been some response. I'm ready to put them right in the top 5, right? You're going to be on the top 5. That's how you choose the right strategic accounts, right? It's definitely a collaborative effort. You have to define what criteria makes it successful to you. And then why not end with a statistic to kind of drive the point home? When you're choosing target accounts, this is from McKinsey. When you choose target accounts, those who use an analytic approach achieve up to 10% sales growth and 5% higher return on sales and a margin uplift of 1 to 2%. Now imagine that. If you can get a 10% sales growth and a 2% uplift on margin, I think anybody would take that. And if you do the analytic approach and you do the due diligence and you do the work, that's what you're going to get according to McKinsey. So another big reason why you need to choose these accounts the right way. But let me tell you a story, and most of my stories involve the wrong way. That's just the way you learn, right? You do things and you do it the wrong way. So I was working for a SaaS company one time, and they told me, their sense was, hey, let's just build a high-tech vertical. We think we have a product. We think it's going to do well in high-tech. Now, why they thought this, I don't know. Did they have customer feedback? Did they do industry surveys? No, somebody just thought of it. So they came to sales and said, build a high-tech vertical. So I had to go do some research. Again, when we talk about this statistic is so true and it's burned in my brain. When we talk about less than 40 or 50% of a salesperson's time is spent on revenue generating activities, this is a perfect example, right? So they send me to go do the research. So I do the research and I realized, much like we talked about above, high tech was a terrible, terrible fit for them. The industry, it was saturated with tons of competitors who had an industry specific solution, right? One of the biggest red flags for market entry that you could have. So it was a terrible fit. So I went to them and I said, this is a no-go. But I happened to have just closed a Fortune 500 chemical company, right? Used a lot of the tactics we use at Catch Moby. I closed this large chemical company, great. And we had a few other accounts in the chemical vertical. So the company said, hey, let's create a chemical vertical. Now they just switched over from high tech to chemical, right? A huge swing. But they said, hey, we have a couple accounts and you just closed a big one, so you must know chemical. So why don't you create a chemical vertical? And I said, okay, that's great. Let's look into it. I said, I don't really know chemical. I just closed this one account. I don't really know chemical. So I said, who's going to build it? Who's the subject matter expert? Who's got the industry expertise to build this vertical? And they said, you are. You're going to build it because you just closed an account. So I said, okay, whatever, right? As I was used to saying with marketing, so I struggled to kind of get any marketing help, right? And I told marketing, all right, at least I'm a salesperson, right? So I said, hey, I got to get collateral. I need something that says we work in this vertical. Can we get use cases for each of the customers we have in chemical? Can we get, amazingly, can we get a mention on the website? And this is a silly and kind of a stupid thing, but you wouldn't believe how important it is. A lot of times your customers will just go to your website, and when it says the verticals you serve, they'll look for their vertical. Simple, but kind of obvious. And the customer will say, I didn't see vertical on there. And I said, we have tons of chemical customers. We just didn't update the website. But hey, if it's not on the website, you don't do it. So I struggled to even go to marketing and say, hey, can we just get a point on the website that says we do chemical? All of this was a struggle because marketing wasn't used to these kind of one-to-one requests. Marketing is used to higher level, broad, general requests that come from committee and they figure out what the market is and they have this whole go-to-market strategy. They're not used to marketing to a specific vertical or a specific account. So that was a complete struggle to get them to do anything, to even create any type of collateral, get that mention on the website. And so needless to say, the initiative failed. Right. And I just said, look, I'm not going to just put this on my shoulders and build an entire vertical because I need cross-departmental support, right? Go to product. Product, what are you building for chemical? Nothing. Marketing, can I get this mentioned? No. That's all right. Then there's no vertical. And, to kind of bring it back to our analogy, of Catch Moby, fishermen just don't go out one day and say, today we're going to hunt whales. Yeah, yesterday we were fishing. The day before we were shrimping. Today I think we're going to hunt whales. That's not how it happens. It's a whole separate segment of the industry. They have different tools, different mannerisms, different behavior, different boats, different everything for hunting whales. And I think that's one key message organizations need to understand. Targeting these large strategic accounts is completely different go-to-market than your standard small, mid-market, just prospecting and target accounts. So moving on, my fourth point is how do you continue to ensure you're targeting the right strategic accounts, right? You set this all up. You have a great process, big little spreadsheet with all the criteria on it. Each of the different departments are all bought in. They're all high-fiving you. And even if you get this far, which I'm going to tell you right now, probably 80% of organizations don't get this far. So if you get this far, you're ahead of 80% of them. But you need to keep it going. Right? This is a living, breathing process that even most people that get this far, they don't continue it because they have, people get busy, they have a lot of work to do. And as sales, I think you need to champion this and make sure that this continues because it is a living and breathing process. And this needs sponsorship from the CRO. This needs sponsorship from someone in executive ranks to say, cross-departmentally, you will focus on this. This is important to the organization. So you need to develop this process that continually reviews and refines your ICP, right? Your customer profile may change, right? Market just took a shift and they produced a whole different product. Or now there's better analytics, or they do have vertical solutions. I mean, your ICP could change. Marketing is now looking for a customer of XYZ. Your support now grew. Hey, we can support that global customer you wanted, right? We've got follow the sun support. We've got centers in different faraway lands speaking different languages. We can actually support that global customer. So your ICP will change. You need to keep tabs on that with those different groups and what they can support. Also, you review the activity engagement of the targeted accounts and you reprioritize them. So I come to the meeting and say, hey, look, we've had successful engagement at this account. We moved the ball forward. These accounts really haven't responded to anything. We're going to swap them out with another 2 accounts. You kind of give an update to the group so they feel invested in what you're doing, right? It's just not a resource you come to. Hey, marketing, I need a brochure that says we do chemical. No, they should be invested in this initiative and invested in your success. Going to all of these departments and having these meetings continually increases their awareness and their focus on these accounts. They know it's something separate, it's something special, it's something different, which it should be, because these are strategic accounts that, again, are critical to the success of your organization and, of course, your customers' organization. So making sure you're continuing to go through the process, continue to keep those stakeholders involved. And you know what? We share the negatives, but share the successes too. Right? When you put out that win notice, you're mentioning the cross-functional team that you've built to help support you. So this was a collaborative effort among Joe in product and Mary in marketing and, Jim in support to really work together to make this customer a success. So you kind of share the wins and share the losses with them. So this gets to one of the most important points, number 5, which is going to be, how do we get started? Right? And this is where the rubber hits the road. Now, sometimes organizations take months and months, you know how organizations work because you're a part of one, to build this, and it never goes anywhere. So I'm going to give you the down and dirty version so you can get moving fast, because that's what we're about at Catch Moby, right? We do outsource sales and enablement and automation, and we get down and dirty and we start showing results, almost immediately for our customers. So the first thing you have to do is get consensus in your organization. This is probably the toughest step. And this sounds like it may take months and months and months and months. But if you use some of the ammunition that we've given you in this podcast and some of the benefits and explain it, I think it's going to be very easy to get consensus in your organization to say, hey, this needs to be a purposeful and concerted effort targeting these strategic accounts. These are critical to the growth and the scalability of this organization. And this is a joint effort, right? I'm going to need stakeholders across different departments. So you need to kind of get that consensus because you're going to be involving different business units within your organization. Next, you're going to identify your contact to work with, right? So let's get our contacts in each of those groups. Who from sales, who from marketing, who from product, who from customer success can be on this little task force. We'll meet once a month and, I'll update you and we'll revise these and we'll talk about the resources and the effort needed, et cetera, but identify those contacts. Next, you ask each department, these contacts, to give you 3 things that are most important to them if they had to think about their ideal and customer. Now, again, not only is this involving the other departments, so it's a little bit self-serving. If marketing says this is what makes a successful customer, now marketing is going to be more apt to support you. And marketing is going to be more invested in the success of closing this account. So there's many reasons for doing this, right? And if they're more invested, this is a customer you're going to be able to keep for a long term and keep marketing to and keep selling, upsell, cross-sell, et cetera. So you go to each department and say, hey, if you had your ideal customer, what would that look like? Right? And product may say, oh, they have this infrastructure and they serve these customers and they're looking to use the product this way, right? So you get that criteria from each of the group. Now you're going to compile all of these criteria and start to use them to build your list of 20 like we talked about, right? Your 5 top targets and your kind of 15 keep warm, waiting to come up and relieve one of those in the top 5. So you've got your 20 accounts. Now is where the rubber really hits the road, when you schedule that meeting with your stakeholders, your contacts, and you come ready with your action plan, right? It shows that you're serious, you're prepared. This is actually a true initiative, right? It's not just lip service. This is a real initiative. And you come ready with your account plan and boom, here's the resources I need. Here's the support I need to get these deals closed and through the sales cycle. And this is how we're all going to win together. Product, you're going to get a new customer give you great feedback. Marketing, you're going to get great case studies. Support, they're going to be, fantastic as a support customer and very engaging, et cetera. So they're going to be beneficial to all your departments. So overall, you leave the impression that these accounts are strategic to the success of the company and that they are handled differently from sales accounts, right? We're all part of a special initiative of strategic accounts. They require different support, different care, different nurture, right? You water them differently, but the success and the benefits are astronomical. And again, best ROI you're going to spend, so why not do it? Now, sometimes organizations don't have the time and resources to dedicate. I can hear people saying, oh, here we go, another cross-functional team, and I got to get people involved, and I got to get approval from management. That alone is going to take 6 months. So a lot of time, organizations don't have the time and the resource to do that. Even though the ROI is so phenomenal, but still, they don't have the time and resource to dedicate to that. So in that case, I think your best bet is to outsource the process. Outsource it, and that gives you several benefits. One, you can kind of dip your toe in the water to see if this is right for you. You can get some early wins, some gains, and that's going to make it much easier to now go and say, hey, we need to build something in-house. I mean, you have a success story and you bring it in-house. That's huge ammunition for saying we need to build this and capitalize on this and duplicate this success. So that's one of the great benefits of outsourcing it. Also, you get kind of a lower cost and more predictable cost model if you outsource, right? Because you're not engaging all these resources across your organization. It's not fluctuating with the need and the support. It can be a lot more predictable. And also the ramp up is much faster because you're not taking time to upskill people in supporting a strategic account. You have kind of similar to what we built at CatchMobi. We have a SWAT team, right? We have our own tools, we have our own people, our own process, and we just go to work. We do a little bit of discovery, a couple of weeks, and we just go to work and we start engaging those customers. And we'll do that strategy. We'll keep the 15 warm and we'll keep messaging those 15, but the top 5 is going to be hyper-personalized messaging, showing that customer, look, we're invested in your success. We want you as a customer. So we have kind of some special tricks we do for those. But the point is, we're engaging customers within weeks, not months, right? And so this is a great way, if you're not sure about building this, to outsource it and say, hey, let's see if this program works for us. Let's see what the benefits are and build up some successful cases to be able to build it in-house. And again, the ROI is phenomenal and the time to revenue is much quicker on these deals because, again, you're engaging customers within weeks and not months. But that's what we do. And you're going to see, and the gains that we've seen in doing this, you're going to see account reps driving 20 to 30% more revenue in their accounts. So you're going to be landing more accounts, but also driving 20 to 30% more revenue in their accounts. And you're going to be spending less money on headcount because now you can support more accounts. So when a rep can only handle 5 accounts, maybe now they can handle 10, right? So you're saving operational costs there. But boy, that was a lot of information about choosing the best strategic accounts. I really hope you found it useful. Again, I think to recap, choosing strategic accounts is a proactive and collective effort, right? Do your due diligence. Don't just print out a sheet like I did and go over a couple of beers and pick out your top accounts. No, wrong way to do it. Put some due diligence in it. Get your stakeholders involved. Go to marketing, go to product, tell them about the initiative that you're building. They're going to be excited. Everybody wants a good customer. Nobody wants a bad customer. Everyone wants a good customer. So they're going to be excited. And I guarantee they're going to pitch in and they're going to help you. And this ensures that your targets are profitable, scalable, and meets the needs of all these different organizations. Develop your ICP, choose your top targets based on that, and then don't forget to continue to review each month. That's key. You got to keep stoking the flames of the fire. Keep getting those departments interested so you can tap into their resources and review that ICP with your stakeholders. And again, if all this is too much, just work with a partner like us, CatchMobi. We're going to implement our strategic accounts in a box so you can start growing revenue by 20 to 30%. Do this, and like I said, you will be ahead of 80. And I'm sorry, if you get down to the final points, you'll be ahead of 90% of your competition out there who's just throwing darts at a dartboard, trying to pick the largest revenues to be strategic that actually are. And this is not just a benefit, this is a necessity. Because if you're in the startup or growing stage, in order to scale your organization, you need strategic accounts. You will not scale without them. But thanks again for listening to the CatchMobi Strategic Sales Podcast. Please subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And again, head over to catchmobi.com, sign up for our newsletter that helps you drive revenue in these strategic accounts like no one else. See you next time.